Ho, ho, ho. It's Wildcard Christmas, everybody. Welcome back to the Audible Angle. We are live, recording live, getting ready for something that comes around only 3 times in history. It's the third Packers-Bears matchup in the playoffs. Word has come in that Dylan Erbs in the Audible Angle has perhaps been biased towards the Green Bay Packers in our analysis. Now, we want to give a quick thanks to Bears fans who have engaged in the comments in the past when we discuss Packers, Bears, or Bears specifically. We welcome you back. We did the math. It's 75% reasonable fans. That being said, due to those 25% unreasonable fans, our own inherent bias, we had a call back into the studio. Mr. Ryan Andrews, we'll call him Druzy. Druzy is a Minnesota Viking fan. I must add I started with F there. A Minnesota Viking fan.
Wow.
Born and bred.
That makes sense.
His mind is a legal weapon that has to be holstered most of the time. He's on air now. Druzy, are you ready to be part of the magic of Wildcard Christmas?
Yeah, let's talk Packers Bears. It's a NFC North playoff matchup, and it's the one I'm most interested in, so let's do it.
Irby, my first question is for you. Since Druzy is a Vikings fan, can we even trust his analysis of a Bears-Packers matchup? I mean, this guy thought J.J. McCarthy was going to lead him to the playoffs and possibly a Super Bowl. Can we trust him?
Absolutely not. We don't. We can only trust one fan base. We know what fan base that is. Doesn't start with the Bears and doesn't end with the Vikings. And it certainly isn't those jackwagons from Detroit. So we cannot trust what he says, although we can trust him more than Bear fan. We can trust him more than Lions fan, quite frankly, because they haven't been successful since Dante Culpepper.
Boo.
Favorite?
It's Sam Darnold.
Yeah, a long time. So the answer to your question quite simply is no, we cannot trust him, but this is the best in our budget we can get at the Audible Angle at this point is Ryan the Great Andrews. Here he is, full-fledged in person.
Now, normally, I guess we do lead you with a question, Druzy, and I will add, as compared to the general Vikings public, we can trust you more than the general Vikings public. Definitely. When you watch, first of all, did you get a good grasp of the first 2 Vikings-Bears matchups? And just give us kind of general takeaways of how you went those 2 games went, who impressed you more in the combined previous 2 matchups earlier this year.
Yeah, it's crazy. They actually met week 1, which seems like an eon ago, in J.J. McCarthy's debut. And it was ugly because through 3 quarters, Vikings fans wanted J.J. McCarthy off the team because I think he had thrown for about 16 yards to that point, which is still 15 more than Max Brosmer. But he did play well in the 4th quarter, led a nice comeback against the Bears. And I think at the time, Vikings fans were pretty excited, but kept it in check because I don't think anticipated that was actually going to look like a good win at the end of the year with how well the Bears ended up playing. And then we played them, in week, must have been 10, 11, somewhere in there in the middle, at US Bank Stadium. And it was the Bears ended up squeaking one out, which involved some Vikings turnovers. I think a late kick return for the Bears. The Vikings essentially very similar. We'll get into it.
Druzy, can I interrupt you for a second? And I apologize. Sure. I know we're kind of giving you a little shit. It's your 5th episode, 3rd of the night. I forgot to mention to viewers, this is now an hourly podcast. We're going to be the first in the world that just records 1 per hour and then posts us. Druzy, let me restate, and if you have to play it back later, remember the intro. Tonight, we're here talking about the Green Bay Packers and the Chicago Bears. So more specifically, my question was, did you watch the previous 2 Packers and Bears matchups? And when you watch those games, what impressed you from each team in the first 2 meetings between the Green Bay Packers and the Chicago Bears? We'll do the Vikings in a different episode.
Yeah, well, when they make the playoffs, which who knows when that'll be. So I apologize. I thought I was answering your question as posed. Uh, I did watch a decent chunk of both games, and needless to say, feel like not a lot separating these two teams. Uh, all the units feel like they're pretty evenly matched, and interesting that with the split during the year. I think, did I read somewhere? I mean, you guys probably have it, that the Bears haven't actually led at any point or something like that. Like, it's crazy. Packers probably should have swept. Some crazy things happened just a couple weeks ago. Uh, not going to be able to recall every play, obviously, but certainly a couple of very close games against a couple of evenly matched teams.
I appreciate your candor there, and getting it back back on the rails quickly there. Herbs, we don't want to rehash too much of what we've already talked about. Are we still taking solace in the fact that, as Druzy mentioned, Packers essentially had the lead for all of regulation in both of games, and regulation including overtime up until tied is still, I guess, not in the lead, but we weren't down at any point to the Bears until the final whistle in the second game. Is it time for a Packers fan? And this is a tough question for us. Is it time for us to move on to the fact that, yeah, we're mostly winning most of the game?
Know if you necessarily move on, Dilly, because that's the foundation that I think breeds the confidence that the Packer and Packer Nation collective go into this game with. I mean, and that should be. Your most recent history is something that can't be rewritten, right? So I think as Packer fans, an organization, I think we come in with confidence, and I'm going to stop short of using my favorite word during the college football playoffs, which is swagger, mostly connected to that guy called Signetti. But I don't think that I think that the Packers do have an air of confidence, and there isn't any concern, and it's really unique, I'll be honest, in a sense that it's a 7-2 seed, and quite frankly, when we talk about the playoffs, there's 2 7-2 seed games that very easily the 7 seed could come out as the winner, but that's where I believe that the foundation has been laid in the first 2 regular season games, Dilly, to your point, that gives us confidence that we can come out victorious in this game. I think that most importantly, an overriding factor to this is that the Packers, we have to have less bad things happen to us than have happened in both games in the regular season, and I think it makes it a little easier as we go through, and maybe as a Packer fan, we have a little bit more breathing room towards the end of the game.
I should update. I was supposed to lead with this. I got a little carried away with the Santa feeling. The truth of the matter is, I'm just running out of different shirts to wear. I mean, I'm just wearing the same thing. This is, I just go to what's clean on top of the pile of unfolded stuff, and this jacket was kind of clean, laying next to my other stuff. I thought, well, haven't worn that before. But we normally lead with some betting information, and this line, I'm not even sure if you can take anything away from it. My information I'm looking at, and I think it depends on where you look, is currently the Packers minus 1.5 now, and yet the Bears are getting more of the bets in a um, bigger amount of money, larger bets on the Packers, but still more money overall on the Bears. Druzy, as a fellow point spread, pick 'em, gambling man, what do you make out of this line movement? Why is it not just pick 'em at this point if it's going to flop between -1 +1? What is there an angle Vegas is playing? Do you think it's Packer fan money that's pushing it? What do you see with the way this spread has been working?
Yeah, it's a good point, Billy. I hadn't realized it had swung back the other way. My guess is I feel like these teams, it probably is about a pick 'em, and if people can probably pluck a point or 2 points or a point and a half, they might do it, because I could easily see this being a 1 point or a 2 point game. And I wonder if people are just playing a little bit of the extra odds, trying to grab a little extra juice there when they see it move.
Herbs, getting into breaking down, specific personnel situations. the Bears are getting Kyler Gordon back. And I feel like we talked about this in the lead up to the first game in Lambeau was kind of like, is the Bears defense good? Ask me who's healthy. And, they are getting Rome and Dunze back on offense. Um, is this Bears team significantly different than the ones the Packers have faced already assuming they have a couple guys out, but they don't have any questionable guys. So we can assume guys like, well, Kyler Gordon technically is, but he's been activated or he's been brought back to practice from IR. It seems like he's going to be activated. Let's assume he is. Do we have to consider that they're really a different team on defense and offense?
Quite frankly, and I think this was well chronicled in our previous thought, but it's worth repeating, Dilly. I don't think Rome Dunze being healthy moves the needle in any significant way. There might be one. There may be an effect there that they actually now have three weapons, arguably four when you add in Loveland or Corey Kmet. That could be a factor, but I don't think that swings the needle any significant way. Remind me, Dilly, is this gentleman Corey coming back? Is he one of their missing linebackers for the Bears?
He's a cornerback. And I should include in that. So Gordon is back at cornerback, and I think Gardner Johnson has been ruled out. He was kind of a stopgap measure they brought in, former Detroit Lion, I believe, at some point. Kind of a little bit like Trevon Diggs, kind of makes some big plays, gives up some big stuff, highlight reel kind of player. But Kyler Gordon, and when they have had Kyler Gordon and Jalen Johnson at cornerback, they have seemed to have, defended the pass better than when they're not. I mean, it's obvious because they're starters, but I think some suggest that it takes their defense from atrociously bad to possibly good.
Now I'm going to stop short of the good thing. I think their main area of concern. Gardner played very well for them actually in our first meeting. If you remember, he was a difference maker in that first meeting and actually made some great pass breakups. He may even got an interception in that game. I don't recall. The second game, he was kind of a heel. The one play I remember him is just chasing number 9 into the end zone for about 40 yards on that quick slant. But I will tell you, linebacker is probably the biggest miss for the Bears, and that would make a significant difference. I don't think that a cornerback, and here's why. I think he's a good player. Thanks for giving me what position he plays in, but I do think he's an all right player. We have not played him yet this year. That doesn't mean we haven't played him in years past. But my point is this. I think that the Packers and their weapons are long enough, that list is long enough, that one corner is not going to make a difference because we're not an offense that keys into one or two wide receivers. There's going to be probably, I would guess, 8 or 9 guys that are going to catch passes for the Packers, and he's one guy. They may choose to take out one of the guys, whether that be Rome, whether that be Reed, whether that be Watson, but you can't take those players all out at once with just their corners. So I don't think that's a needle mover either, Dilly, in the fact of we will still see the same type of game because that linebacking core is a little weak, and that's probably the biggest weakness on the Bears as well as their defensive line.
Jersey, we're talking injuries a little bit here. Perhaps as a Viking fan, you're not completely dialed in on the intricacies of the Packers injuries, but obviously you saw that Packers did not play a ton of frontline players against the Vikings last week. Do you think either team has an advantage with guys? I mean, Roma Dunze, I think if you didn't catch the last episode, part of the reason why we're limiting the impact he'd have on the game is because Luther Burden had been playing pretty well. Loveland's making plays. They still had DJ Moore. We're just not sure if there's enough for Roma Dunze to do much without taking away from a guy that stepped into his shoes and made some plays like Luther Burden. Does anybody have the advantage health-wise?
Yeah, What's interesting is I think what really matters is Roma Dunze really healthy? Like we know he's going to play, but this time of year, a guy's just strapping it on and going out there. And how banged up is he? And so maybe the question is, Dillian, I'm not going to pretend to know everybody on the Bears and Packers that are on the injury report, is how banged up are they with the guys that are actually playing? So depth on both teams could certainly become an issue in this game for sure.
Yeah,
One of the
it was I think some of this stuff, Dilly, and I don't want to rub you the wrong way here and take your strength out of this when on your next comment, but I do think to your point, Druzy, there's going to be more coming back for the Packers that we didn't have in the first 2 games, certainly the second game against the Bears, that are going to be coming in where I think the Roma Dunze is kind of a scratch, and quite frankly, the way you put it, Drew, I think that actually may be an advantage if he isn't healthy. So if they wanna put him in there as maybe a guy that we are more worried about than Luther Burden, quite frankly, he's not gonna surprise Burden isn't gonna surprise anyone in a Packers jersey, coaching staff or fan base, that he's pretty serviceable and he's pretty good because he torched us pretty good in both of those games.
I was going to bring up the in the second matchup, Zach Tom wasn't playing. That's a right tackle, best lineman, pretty good lineman overall. The issue on defense, part of the issue for both teams has been pretty non-existent pass rush, and specifically the Packers have not generated anything since Micah Parsons has been out. How important, if you think neither team can rush the passer, which quarterback benefits more from a lack of pass rush? Do you feel better about Jordan Love having time back there, or do you feel better about Caleb Williams having time?
Probably feel better about Jordan Love Day because if there's one, like Caleb Williams has looked good, to this point in his career, but I don't know if this stat is wholly correct, but I think it's pretty close. He holds on to the ball longer than lots of other quarterbacks, and so sometimes he allows a rush to get there that may not have otherwise been there. And if so, somehow, some way, the Packers can generate some sort of a pass rush, maybe they can get home to Caleb Williams. I feel like Jordan Love is just he's got a little bit more experience. He's played in the playoffs, can probably deliver the ball more on time, and can do some more savvy things with the ball if he's not experiencing that pass rush. Because, quite frankly, I feel like both defenses are the same in that I think in terms of sacks, they were pretty even during the year, and they both almost solely relied on one guy. It was Micah Parsons for the Packers. It was Montez Sweat for the Bears. And so even if the Packers can neutralize Montez Sweat, I don't think the Bears had another guy with like more than 3.5 or 4 sacks or something like that.
Really, I'll throw an answer out there, and I think when we went into game 2 and you and I were chatting about what's got to change from game 1 to game 2, we both talked about staying in our lanes as a defensive line and making sure that we don't allow Caleb Williams to get out of on the flanks because that's where he seemed to beat us in the first game. Frankly, looking at the second game, we did that by and large, and there weren't plays called for him to roll out as much as there was in the first game. I believe the first game Micah Parsons was in the game. The second game he was not. So there may have been a difference there in play calling from the Bears staff, but in the second game we did a better job of keeping him in the pocket, making him a pocket passer, relieving some of the advantages that he has, Caleb Williams. But and then without that, I will tell you, Jordan Love has shown that he's capable because of the first game, Drew, that we played against the Vikings. There was a ton of pressure. The Vikings actually leaned on that a great deal on their defense with the Flores type defense, as well as the 2 games against the Lions. And Love showed that he can do the quick passes and do the audible calls that will get him out of maybe calls that were going to require him to be back in. Overall, I think, Drew, to your point, I think you're right. This is a lack of pass rush actually probably benefits the Packers more for 2 facts. Love can throw out of the pocket, no problem, and he's got a pretty accurate arm. And the second one, I think it actually is a issue for Caleb Williams throwing out of the pocket. and making those throws, because he seems to miss more than he makes, especially staying in the pocket in a standard way.
I think in the injury discussion, I certainly glossed over a significant player, and we can I'll kind of ask Druzy as it's a player that you'll know more than our right tackle or other bits and pieces that are coming back. Josh Jacobs, Packer fans watch him, sometimes limp, sometimes come out of games, sometimes even in the game against Minnesota in Lambeau Field, he was in that one. Kind of became an Emmanuel Wilson game. Um, he's been resting for a couple of weeks now. He says he feels better than he has in 6 or 7 weeks. Is Josh Jacobs the kind of weapon that the Bears saw a bit of him, but they didn't see 100% Josh Jacobs yet? As a Vikings fan, watching Jacobs against the Vikes, watching general football games that are on, how much can Josh Jacobs help the Packers out? They haven't run the ball that great all year. Um, can he help out either running or almost filling kind of a intermediate short passing game that like Tucker Kraft fulfilled, where you have a guy that can break some tackles and make plays?
Yeah, I think Josh Jacobs is a huge part of this game for so many reasons. Quite frankly, maybe even the key or one of the top two keys, three keys for the Packers for a lot of reasons. Number one, playoff football. It sounds like it might not be the greatest weather down there. This game has Josh Jacobs written all over it, as far as I'm concerned. Like Jordan Love dinged up a couple weeks ago in that Bears game. What better way to keep him on his feet than just hand it to Josh Jacobs, who's a bigger, more physical back, and just let him sort of plod along and try to wear down that Bears defense. Keep the Packers on script, keep moving the chains, beat up the clock. It feels like a Josh Jacobs game. And actually, I've been impressed with Wilson as well. I can't remember. You guys will have to remind me. There's a game, one of the games where Jacobs was hurt. He must have run for 130 yards or something like that. He looked great. So they can even do a little 1-2 punch to give Jacobs a breather when he needs it. But I think Josh Jacobs, that's a great call, Dilly. He is going to be one of the key factors in this game.
Did we forget about Josh Jacobs too much here?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a good point. I don't think that Jacobs, actually, I know Jacobs hasn't been right since week 10 in the when we played the Giants and he got injured. He got injured by getting tackled and his knee hit the turf. You and I kind of chronicled back then when that one of the big keys coming out of playing at the Giants is just trying to stay healthy on that junk field. So I think that our overall, now we weren't rushing the ball great in the first 10 weeks, but we weren't rushing the ball terrible. And after week 10 would probably be that time frame that I feel like we were rushing the ball terrible. Outside of that flash in the pan, Druzy, you got it right. Wilson was our first 100-yard rusher of the season, and I think that was maybe week 15 or 16 against a lackluster squad. I'm not sure exactly, but that for sure was our first 100-yard rusher. And I like your angle there, Dilly. I think the reason that, number one, he gives the threat of a run on downs 1 through 3 and possibly 4. We haven't had a very good luck on running the ball on the fourth down, but I think most importantly, as you alluded to, Dilly, he gives a really good check down and a very dangerous check down. And the fact that he can break tackles, he's elusive when he's healthy in the open field. He's proved that because he does a lot of that. The way Jacobs is elusive is he steps on that one foot and he pushes off of that, right? He likes to put the foot in the ground and move off of that. And I just don't think he had that ability with that injury on the knee, because it was a knee bruise. So that's a different injury than an MCL, obviously, or a meniscus or something that you can play through. So I do think, Druzy, to your point, that is the key. And Dilly, we haven't done a lot of talking about that and what he can offer. And frankly, the reason that that's been is because we've kind of forgotten what he can do for us. We've got to go back to weeks 1 through 4 to kind of really see where his value lays.
Now, I'm not trying to accelerate the episode by any means, but I feel a little bit like, man, we've been struggling as a show to keep our analysis pants on and sound like we know what we're talking about. Everybody wants to get into predictions and argue about predictions. I feel like we should start with Herbs on this one and then come back to Druzy for some levity as the outside voice. And then I'll come in and I might interrupt if necessary. I'll come in and decide who's right, and we'll settle this once and for all. So Herbs, right now, you're honest to goodness, little bit of game flow leading into a prediction for the game.
I think if the Bears have learned anything from, number one, the tape from the first 2 games, Dilly, is that they can run the football. They can run the football, and more importantly, they've watched more than just their 2 games against us. They've watched a lot of tape on the Packers, and our front line defensively is porous at best. Do I have a feeling that we're going to bolster that, and can we play better for a duration of time during the game? Absolutely. Have we proved that in games past with the Bears this season? 100%. But I also think that coupled with the Bears removing that from the game, whether that's game flow or not, I do think that the way this game is going to go is going to be how it starts. And again, we've said this a million times, and I think it still holds true. If the Green Bay Packers can get out fast and make the Bears put the game on Caleb Williams' shoulders, there's a very good chance it comes out positive for the 7 seed. Now, I foresee this game being sloppy conditions at best. Currently, there's a deluge in Green Bay, so that field is getting saturated as we speak. It's raining. It's 40 degrees. I don't know where what it's doing down in Chicago. I would assume that it's also raining because it's only going to be warmer as you go south. So that field in itself is never in good shape. I've never seen Soldier Field in good shape. So it's going to be a mudder's game, if you will. That leads into the Bears. That's what concerns me. If the Packers can get it out early, and I like that they can get out early because we're healthy, we're hungry, I think that the Bears, frankly, are going to be playing a little bit defensively in their play calls. I know that's not a Johnson thought pattern, but I think they're going to play this game, being the 2 seed, not to lose. And we've talked about that in previous episodes. That's a dangerous place to be in. The Green Bay Packers have nothing to lose in this game. They're not supposed to win the game. They've lost the last one. There's zero momentum. So I believe that the Packers have nothing to lose and will play a little bit freer. It should free up Matt LaFleur to make some, what I would say in retrospect will be some questionable calls. If they pay off, we're fine. This game will solely land on how many turnovers the Packers give up or the Bears take. If we can keep that number under 1 or under, I think we're in good shape. So I think that I would ultimately tell you this game is going to be close, but I do like the Packers by 9 points.
Druzy, what are we missing here? What do you see as an outsider, or true outsider, but still an NFC North fan? And what are we? Is Irby right?
Yeah, I think Irby hit a lot of good points that sadly I'm going to agree with. But yeah, we said it from the outset. The teams are evenly matched. There's so many dynamics going on here, right? The Bears being the younger team with the younger quarterback who doesn't have playoff experience hosting a home game. How much pressure is he going to feel in that situation? Gripping the ball a little too tight, trying to make something happen. I will say, as far as like wide receivers and playmakers, I might like the Bears just a little bit more with DJ Moore and Roma Dunze. I don't like the running game as much. Swift and Monangai have been good at times. Collectively, they're okay, but they've just been up and down. And then, as far as the Packers, again, I feel like this is a Josh Jacobs type of a game. And if you're going to ask me, out of all the players on the field, who do I trust to make good decisions? It's Jordan Love, just because he's been there. He's won a road game. He won in Dallas. He's been there. And I think it's a close game. It's a slugfest. I think maybe the Packers play with and you guys can probably fill in the blanks here, but a little bit of a chip based on like Jordan Love getting knocked out of the game and having that sour taste in their mouth with everything that could have went wrong in the last game, and essentially clinched the division for for the Bears for all intents and purposes. So there's so many storylines to the game. I guess ultimately I'm going to go ahead and put the Packers. Can't believe I'm going to say that, but I just feel like this game lines up best for them when you take all those things into account, and probably a low scoring type of a game, maybe 16-13, 20-16, something like that.
Before I give my prediction here, I'm just going to throw out an easy question. And I wonder, will Ben Johnson, and of course, it depends on who wins the toss and all that, but will Ben Johnson, if the Bears win the toss, will he be seduced by what John Harbaugh and the Baltimore Ravens did? Will he, which is usually relatively uncommon, will he elect to receive the ball and try to do a Baltimore Ravens ram it down your throat running game drive? The main question is, if the Bears win the toss, will they elect to receive to start the game?
I think they absolutely do, and here's why, Dilly. Their roadmap to win is to control the game. Their roadmap to win is to stay ahead. And the way that they coach there is aggressive. They want the ball on offense. They don't want, at all costs, they don't want the Packers to get up 7-0, because then it's one stop away with that Packers defense, who is still a serviceable defensive group. They're not a great serviceable defensive group. They're still good. I know we have questions at cornerback, but I think, to answer your question simply, Dilly, for a number of reasons, they take the ball and they try to go and score on a 12-14 play drive.
I agree, Joe. I think whoever wins the coin toss will take the ball. The Packers win the coin toss. I think they take the ball and try to do what Irby just said, which is where, run some clock, get some first downs, get up on the Bears, force Caleb Williams into some poor decisions, and for a lot of the reasons that Herb's iterated, which is the Bears win the toss, they're going to want to maybe give Caleb Williams some safe throws, screen passes, something easy to try to get him comfortable in his first playoff appearance, and keep the first down chains moving, even if they don't score.
Well, that's an old host trick, because that was going to be a big proclamation by me, but turns out everybody thinks that's a pretty strong possibility that the Bears will try to get the ball for it first if they win the toss. My prediction of the game, and I've been thinking about it a lot, if you can imagine it. I believe that Ben Johnson is a good coach. I also believe that he's probably heard the noise and he's probably watched the film about the Packers giving it up to the Ravens, the Bears for segments of the games against the Packers running it down their throats. What he may not realize is that Colby Wooden, our nose tackle, he came into the year playing better than everyone expected. It's a new position for him, carrying extra weight to fill in the middle for Kenny Clark and TJ Slayton, who left for the Bengals, I believe. What he doesn't know is how much rest he got and how much better and energized he's going to feel. He doesn't know that Ron Gary, might as well be Ron Gary, Rashawn Gary is rested. He's going to be rejuvenated. It's going to be great. But Ben Johnson is on their first drive. There's a 95% chance that he's going to try to ram it up the ass and drain the clock and try to dominate, try to go back to his Dan Campbell tutelage and try to own the game that way. And early in the game, there's going to be some critical plays, but they're going to be stopped and they're going to punt the ball away. And then he's going to start thinking, everyone's said, and I'm not saying he's heavily influenced by the media, because his own analysis is going to tell him this as well. He should stick with the run longer. It happened in Detroit where they'd be running the ball, and he'd always kind of try to tickle it into the passing game, but he's going to overcompensate. He's going to commit to the run, and they're going to stall out. I said 95% chance of the Bears offense stalling out early due to overcompensation on sticking to the run. The 5% chance is he goes way too far the other direction and does an okie dokie flea flicker, some magic Ben Johnson play, and then that's just a roll of the dice to see if that works for a fast start. But I do think they're going to overcompensate, and I think the Packers offense, and there's a lot of evidence to suggest this, they're going to be able to move the ball, and I think it's a little counterintuitive in today's game, apparently. I do think they have to take 3 points. They have to take 3 points when they're down there early in the game. Now, I'm not saying all game long, and maybe even the first drive. I'm not against going for it on 4th and 1, but maybe we've established get 3, stop them, keep stopping them, build up a little bit of a lead because you're going to be able to move the ball, and later, possibly in a lower the game will dictate to you whether you need to take those chances later in the game. It's going to be a big game. I'm excited for it. I think the Packers are going to win. Shocker, shocker. I always think they're going to win, but I think it's going to be 27-17. I was going lower to start. I just think there's a lot there that the Packers have learned to keep the Bears at arm's length, just arm's length. If the game starts that way, and again, I could easily be wrong, but it's happened to the Bears in many games. It's happened in the games against the Packers. I just bank on the Packers having learned enough to manage the Bears at arm's length. I'm doing the Heisman pose for some reason, looking at an empty wall, and whether that comes from the ability of our defense to play discipline and just 2 and 3 yard gains. No 9 yards on first down. It's not a drastic uptick in defensive rigidity. It's just enough to slow down the Bears. And then later in the game, we'll either step on the gas or let off the gas a little bit. And incongruently with Urban's thoughts, I think LaFleur will manage that correctly. Stepping on the gas, letting off the gas. Irby, your thoughts on LaFleur's ability to choose when to step on the gas and take the risk versus going way too conservative? Are you confident in that?
Holy shit. I can't believe you waited until 38 minutes into this. And obviously that was on purpose. Come on, man. This guy has proven absolutely nothing in the game management sense that would tell you that he could make a good decision when it was. I was going to come back with you and say, is there any chance that our leader, MLF, Matt LaFleur, other than the fact that he'll have the best haircut on the goddamn field, will he be able to make a good decision when the time comes? The answer, hold on, is absolutely not. Absolutely not. And I will double down on this, Dilly, and tell you that man is incapable of taking the correct 3-point play in kicking the field goal at any time in the game. And what is my evidence to said accuracy? The entire flippin' season. He's never taken the 3-point field goal when he should. He'll go 4th down on a shotgun inside running play. Learned that a little bit ago on an episode from a friend of mine. Dilly told me that it's not a draw. It is an inside run
Zone.
Play of some sort.
Inside zone.
Yes, exactly. But my point is, we as a Packer team cannot put our trust into Matt LaFleur, which, by the way, our last episode was all about coaching changes. If we lose this game, there very well could be a change, but I'm going to soften it, Dilly. I'm going to surprise our viewers. I will tell you, after further thought, Matt LaFleur should be fired if we lose this game for a number of different reasons. However, I think it is much easier and more successful route for success if we maintain him in the position he is right now, but look at releasing some of the responsibilities, if you will. I wouldn't put out there that it would be out of the question to find an offensive coordinator, not like the guy we have, that will actually play calls or call plays so that Matt LaFleur doesn't have that responsibility. Come hell or high water if that ever happens, because I'm sure Matt LaFleur is never going to allow it to happen. But I think we re-sign him for this 3-year window, and then we reevaluate if he can't get us to the promised land.
the old restructure responsibilities take. I remember who was that? I was watching. Oh, it was me for like 2 out of the last 3 Packer episodes, suggesting that that's a more logical choice. Jersey, I had a different question lined up for you, but as an outsider, how would you feel? Win, lose, or tie? First ever playoff tie. I wouldn't rule it out in a Packers-Bears matchup and the insanity of the NFL. Maybe they'll tie, just run it back on Wednesday Night Football. But how would you feel if the Packers fired LaFleur and did a whole house cleaning and came in with a new staff heading into next year? Well, as a Vikings fan, how would you feel about that?
I am looking forward to the Matt LaFleur firing and them hiring Mike McCarthy again. I can't wait for this scenario to play out. It's just going to be one of the greatest of all time. I'm just kidding. I think it's crazy that we're even talking about his job. Quite frankly, just to my serious take here, I think his job. It feels like
crazy. How can that be crazy?
It's crazy. I mean, look at that list of great coaches that we talked about in the previous episode.
Maybe we'll get Raheem Morris in here. We'll step up the defense, or Chris Shula will come. I mean, in all honesty, that would be a Packers move. Would be Chris Shula, because he's young, hasn't had a head coaching job yet, and that is the direction they'd go. Financially safer. Let's not talk about this. It's disgusting.
And you speak as if that is a bad option. You speak as that's a bad option, and that's the exact thing that we did with Matt LaFleur. And now you think you're putting Pat LaFleur on a pedestal in the fact when he's not. I mean, come on, what has he done for us besides nothing? Come on, guys, let's wake up. Jersey, you've got to see the value. The only reason you want him still being a coach is because you know that your coach is better than ours, and you want to keep it that way.
Well, that is true. However, I was taken aback by Dilly's question because I was still trying to figure out if Herbs was actually picking the Packers or not after that rant. I wasn't sure.
The quarterback whisperer. Oh,
Look what he's done with Max Brosmer. Come on.
Yeah. He got Brosmer ready. JJ looked great.
Look at that
He did it one time with Sam Darnold, one season. And now the Seattle guy's also a quarterback whisperer. Congratulations on your upcoming head coaching gig, Clint Kubiak. Although I think Clint Kubiak would be a good coach. Jersey, another question for you. And I'm not asking which one is like literally most outrageous. I'm talking about like fan pundit reaction. What is more outrageous? Getting worked up about Caleb Williams' fingernails, or getting worked up about Matt LaFleur's haircut? What's more ridiculous?
Oh, I know where I want to go with this. It's got to be a fool's haircut, right? I mean, he is gonna have the best head of hair on the field, like Irby said, which is appropriate since he's essentially it's a job interview for him, so he's got to look good. Since apparently he's on the chopping block, so I'd want to look good for my job interview too.
I'll tell you what. Here's the thing: Matt LaFleur is maximizing his hairline and his hair look to 100% capability. And what is Irby doing? He's working with 30% less of not just hairline, just look. But you look at your hair, you're giving it 100%, right? So what's wrong with giving 100% on your hair? I'm giving it 100%. He's a pretty good head of hair yet for 68 years old. Druzy, what is the key to never balding at all? What is your problem?
Ooh. Whoa. Now, wait a second. No, I didn't. Just wait 1 second, Dilly. You're talking about what I'm doing. I am at 101% of the capabilities of what I have to work with.
Right.
All right. My point is Matt LaFleur has much bigger things to worry about than his bloody hair, which is winning a goddamn football game, making the right calls when it happens. Now, I get it, Dilly. I get it. We'll go back to Jersey's hairline, which is actually obnoxious at this point at 47 years old. That is obnoxious, obnoxiously good. But my point of this is Matt LaFleur has done a serviceable job. You guys have to understand where I'm coming from. But at this point in his career, with the skilled players that he has had year in and year out, to not get us to the promised land, Packer fan nation is out of patience. We're just out of patience. And quite frankly, we're going to see it. We're going to talk about it this year. If we don't get there again next year, we'll talk about it again. And I'm tired of talking about it. So we've got to, I know I softened it and I'll come off the high horse here, but we've got to start thinking about what's next. Because right now what's happening is mediocre and it ain't good in Packer Nation.
We talked about, all natural capabilities versus chemically enhanced capabilities when we discussed the great Michael Irvin last night. Druzy, just come clean. Is this all natural on the full head of hair? Or are you
all natural,
supplementing?
baby. Well, you got to remember what I have in coverage, I certainly make up for in grays. So it's,
Have you ever thought about just for Halloween or something, coloring it all back to the natural color, including the beard?
Oh, no way. I'm living life fast, baby. It is what it is.
Ruby, you're predicting a win, and it sounds like it's not that meaningful for you, as far as LaFleur goes. Is there any more meaning? And this is the only game in the NFC we have the benefit of discussing further into next round. You said it on a previous episode, but let's say Packers win. We go to Seattle. Is that game enough to change your outlook? Because that would be a big upset. Packers are going to be left for dead if they advance. Would that move the needle for you?
My easy answer to that is I don't speak in hypotheticals, so I won't answer the question. But today I will. In a hypothetical situation,
thank you.
If the Packers go up into Seattle and try to take down the number 1 seed, if that were to happen, does that save Matt LaFleur's job? The answer is absolutely 100%. But here's why. I don't believe that the conservative brass at the helm of the Green Bay Packers have even thought for 1 minute, like myself, in that Matt LaFleur's job is on the line. I truly do not believe that the Packers will make a change at the head coaching position. I don't think that they've proven that they will. It took Mike McCarthy to leave this. It was a joke how bad that team was at the end of his career, and he finally got canned halfway through, believe it or not, which was also unheard of. But I will tell you, yeah, it will change the narrative for me if the Packers can go up there with a shell of themselves of a team and beat Seattle. But frankly, Dilly, that hypothetical positioning is really far and few between because I don't see it happening. As I stated before, and you alluded to it, any team that wins this game, whether it's the Bears, whether it's the Packers, are not winning the second round.
We're going to move on because this would carry on too long. Bold yet reasonable predictions for individual performances, and I will go first to give you guys a moment to think. Here's my bold prediction, and it just struck me. The Green Bay Packers are going to have 2 sacks on Saturday night. One from, get this, Rashawn Reginald Gary. I don't know what his middle name is. Rashawn Gary is getting a sack, and I'm going to, split the difference here. Either Edgerrin Cooper or Quay Walker will get the sack as they terrorize Caleb Williams with a schemed up pass rush out of nowhere. No one even believes it's possible. And it's coming. A pass rush is coming. 2 sacks isn't a lot unless you consider how many sacks the Packers have had in the last 6 games or 5 games. I believe it's 2, and 1 was fake, according to the Pack-A-Day podcast, which I trust. So there you have it. 2 sacks for the Green Bay Packers, 1 interception by our safeties and an additional turnover, 2 turnovers, 2 sacks, gets over. Packers win. Rodgers? Love, 3 touchdown passes. Jacobs, unfettered running. Are you guys ready for your predictions yet? Or do I need to keep going? Unfettered running, 2 sacks, 2 picks. It's over. Colby Wooden single-handedly taking Monaghan down. Druzy, bold prediction, either team.
Bold prediction. I think that, and I guess for whatever reason, I kind of personally like this guy. Battled injuries this year, but I'm going to call maybe a sneaky big game for Jaden Reed. Don't know what big game means, maybe 75, 80 yards and a touchdown. I mean, I'm not going to say he's going to have a lot of yards because just think it might be a little lower scoring, a slower paced game. But I feel like you guys have had your receivers have stepped up at times this year. You know, Dontavian had a couple of games where he looked good. Same with Romeo. Obviously losing Tucker was hard. I feel like Jaden Reed being back might even be a key to this game, and I feel like maybe he becomes J Love's go-to guy in this game. So I'll call big game for Jaden Reed.
Well, it looks like I've got the podium, and here's my bold prediction. And it's going to go twofold here, Dilly. I believe Josh Jacobs will go full CMC on the Bears defense. I'm predicting that Josh Jacobs has over 150 yards rushing. And I also will go back and I will tell you, well, these are bold predictions, by the way. So they're pointed to be bold, which is 150 plus yards rushing for Josh Jacobs. We're going to add 50 plus yards to his receiving total. And that will put him over the 200-yard total yard mark. And I will go further. And there will be a wide receiver over 100 yards. And that wide receiver is not Christian Watson, which would be an easy and a non-bold prediction. It will not be Romeo Doubs, which would be an easy and a non-bold prediction. Jaden Reed will have over 100 yards receiving, along with Josh Jacobs at 150 rushing and 50 receiving yards. Our boy Jordan Love, in turn, throws for 4 touchdowns. This will be a repeat of what you saw the San Francisco 49ers do to the Chicago Bears defense without what the Chicago Bears did to the San Francisco defense. So my bold prediction is a career day from Josh Jacobs, a career day from Jaden Reed, and Jordan Love being who Jordan Love is.
Just another playoff game for Jordan Love. First round, another wildcard weekend game for Jordan Love. But I meant to ask you this way earlier, and we'll wrap up here because, frankly, you could go on and on. Because as I was getting ready to go, shame on Herbs, shame on Dilly. We didn't even talk about Jaden Reed in our buildup. Talk about a sleeper. Thank you, Druzy. That's your money shot right there. You just earned yourself another episode, buddy, because that's the kind of bold, intuitive position we need because he is a playmaker. He has produced big games before, but he hasn't for a long time. And that might be a little by design. It might be, obviously, injuries played a factor in that. But we know injuries play a factor with him. You don't use him up during the year. They haven't even, his first game back was against the Bears, and we just tickled it a little bit. Just tickled, I think, 3-4 receptions, 30, 40 yards. Big ones coming. I like it. Herbs, what I was going to ask you, do you have any questions for our good friends, and who knows, maybe most of our viewers, the Chicago Bear fan? Do you have a pointed question for Chicago Bears fans? Because we know they'll reply. This isn't even a call out or this isn't meant to be controversial. I just know that they often answer. What do you want to know from a Chicago's Bear fan before kickoff?
I want to know from my friend Mandu. Are we still the worst podcast you have ever seen? Mandu?
I did not expect to hear a Mandu call out. For one, we're not even sure he's a Bears fan because his comment was unrelated That was specifically about all of our content, not about the Bears in particular. And this is a steal from Dave Portnoy. And, I think he was making a declaration. I don't think he was making, he wasn't asking a question to Bears fan. I'm asking a question for Bears fan. Let's say it's a close game. You go down to the Packers. How long will it take you to reflect back on the season and feel good about the successes that you've had with a new coach, an emerging quarterback, fighting through some injuries on defense, strengthened offensive line? There's a lot of good things to say about the Bears. I guarantee you, if the Packers win, Bears fan is going to feel bad through the rest of the weekend. I can attest, if the Packers lose on Saturday night, it's going to be a struggle to watch the rest of the playoff action on Wildcard weekend. How long, Bears fan, theoretically, if the Bears lose, how long of a grievance period before you can openly and easily acknowledge the success the season has been thus far? Druzy, I'm going to ask you a different question or request. What do you want to know from Packers fans? And Irby, we can't answer.
Oh boy. Well, I will say when Irby was given his bold prediction, I thought he was going to say that Matt LaFleur was going to get fired at halftime when the Packers were down 10-9, and Matt LaFleur went for it on fourth down instead of kicking the field goal to go up 12-10. So that was my first thought. No, I think a question for Packers fans would be, I know I've heard a lot over the last week. I think we talk about, when you're talking about playoffs, like, oh, who would you rather face? And I've heard a lot of, and I don't know if this is true or not, so you guys fill me in, is that we prefer to play the Bears. I think a lot of that's just based on matchups, how you looked against them during the year. Do you think that might come back to haunt you? They are the number 2 seed. It's a decent matchup for you, but do you think, are you, sometimes you ask for too much or you poke the bear?
No, absolutely not. And I say that as a person who abstained from, wanting to play a certain team. But I don't think there's anyone else matchup-wise that was plausible, which the other team, even before week 18, the NFC South winner was out. You don't want to play the NFC West, so what do you got? You got the Bears, and, it was a logical choice. That's my defense of that. I know for a fact, but logically, it's a logical stance. If a Packer fan regrets that later, it's hindsight. And, we know LaFleur watches. I suspect Ben Johnson's been watching, and that's why I laid a little reverse psychology on him in there in my prediction segment. He's going to try to use that. Ben Johnson will try to use the Audible Angle calling for a Bears matchup as motivation. And I'll tell you what, it's not going to work. So save your breath. Keep your shirt on, Ben. You're not the only one with a great body and chest hair. What are we doing? Long pause into the goodbyes.
See you, boys. Great recap, great preview, great episodes.
Yeah,
thanks for having me, boys.
It's hard to preview the wild card weekend, and especially when it's your team and it's the Bears and Packers. It's hard to preview it enough. So we will pull the plug, and we're going to change our shirts, and then we're going to do another Packers Bears preview show coming up next. See you soon.